and welcome to this review of the Trumpeter 148 scale Su-24M Fencer D, kit number 02835. And the review will be done by Rob from Frontline Model Hobbies and me, Lenny, from RTB Models. So, first off, the box art. Rather nice, I thought. Very chilling, very sort of like menacing. And yeah, it's rather nice. So anyway, let's have a look what's inside the box.
Okay, thank you Lenny for introducing the video. So obviously we're going to go through the instructions first, and as you can see they are Trumpeter's usual standard style. So over the page obviously you get your sprue call outs, and one thing I'm a bit niffed about on mine is I don't get the metal landing gear and he does, and I can see him laughing and I can hear him laughing at me. But anyway, so over the page, so step 1, page 4, obviously he's going through. Step 2 and step 3 is the cockpit and main landing gear, putting that all together into the fuselage and then moving on to the burner cans. Obviously we'll talk about these as we're going through and showing the sprues. Next section is obviously going through, you obviously get the front radar section, whether you can deploy the nose open, I'm not quite sure. Main landing gear going together, 2 halves, which again we'll explain later. Then moving on to the wing fold sections and the main gear section in the fuselage, and then putting all that together into the fuselage and the rear burner cans on. Quite modular, and then big massive seam down there, but again we'll explain in a minute. Putting your slats and flaps on the wings, putting it all together, looking quite nice there, and again putting it all together. Page 11 step 14 is putting your wings on. I can't see a way around this. I've not been able to put the wings on afterwards, but if somebody comes up with a good idea, let me know. Putting the rear tail section on and the main landing gear on, which I probably won't do until the end of the build. Moving on to the lumps and bumps, and then it's just page and page, because obviously this is a Russian jet and everything sits on the outside of the bloody thing. Putting all your lumps and bumps on, and your sensors and your intakes and so forth as you go through. Next you're putting your rails on for your weapons, and then more rails for the bottom. And then page 19 is obviously going into your fuel tanks, which are quite badass on this kit. It would be nice to have that as a separate fit, but we'll have to see. And then going into your well, they'll be called mere multiple ejection racks in the west. Not quite sure what they're called in the east, but similar sort of thing. You've got some air-to-air missiles, more bombs, rocket bombs, rockets and all sorts of stuff. And it keeps on going. There's more pages of weapons than there is of the kit. And then, the last but not least, is obviously your call-outs there. So, that is the instructions. I know it's quite quick, but again we'll put the pictures up at the end. So, over to my good friend, Lenny.
Right, okay, thanks Rob. And so, first sprue we're going to have a look at is sprue G, and as soon as you see it you'll see the front fuselage halves there. Now when you look at it you'll see that the detail is rather nice, it's very fine, but you'll see that more clearly on the stills photographs at the end of the video. Point to note though, and what my colleague will be showing you at this moment I hope, is once you've got the fuselage halves together, obviously you're going to have a dirty great big seam line all the way down there, and obviously underneath as well. It can be problematic, as a certain person that we know had issues with and said the kit was crap, but give it a chance, put it together and you will be absolutely fine. Now when you put in the actual front fuselage halves to the actual main fuselage itself, it's best to do it as in separately, if you know what I mean. Don't stick it together and then pop it on. Put each side onto the actual main part of the fuselage. Point to note, when you look at the actual front part, you do have this lip that goes all the way around. Take it off, because once you've taken it off, you put it through where the actual tab is there, And what my colleague is showing you right now is the fact that it is a better join, and when you turn it over, when you're looking at the front face of the fuselage, you'll have a seamless seam. There you go.
All right, cheers Lenny, mate. Right, on to the next one. So sprue B, as you can see there. So obviously we've got the wing sections there, so 2 halves to each side, and then you've got the top boot section which marries all the rest down to the fuselage, and then you've got your 2 cogs which will, as you've seen on the instructions, make you be able to move the wings. Detail is very much similar to the rest of the fuselage, so it carries on that trend, which I think is not. Some people say that, you know, Trumpeter's riveting detail is a bit crap, but you know, the early stuff, I can't fault it, to be honest with you. So the flash is mainly kept to the sprues. Can't really see much on the actual parts, but there again, on the inside there's no real sort of spars going across it to make it warp. I don't very much doubt it will warp anyway, being not particularly a huge wing. So yeah, very nice sprue. Moving on, so push that out of the way. Sprue C. So obviously these are your flaps and slats that would go onto those wing sections there, and obviously you've got this protection part for the slats which go along, so you've got 2 halves in there. I'm not going to get it out just in case I break it, which is normally what I do. The flaps come in one piece, which I particularly like. I do like that very much. Less to go wrong, less to mess up when you're trying to glue it all together and all, especially down that seam anyway. So yeah, nothing really much to show on there. Sprue gates are obviously just 2, so there's nothing that I can see that's on the trailing edge, which again is a nice touch by Trumpeter. And then last but not least for myself is sprue F, which is the box section for your wing fold. So those cogs and everything will fit into there, and obviously you've got the rear burner can section that will fit on the back of the fuselage. I have heard that this section here is a bit too narrow or too wide. I can't remember which way people are looking at it, but to be fair, when it's together it looks like a fencer anyway, so I'm not going to mess with that. And this plate here goes on the top, as you've seen from the instructions. So again, very nice sprue. Can't really fault it, to be honest with you, being early Trumpeter. So there are the sprues. Over to my good Lenny.
Right, thanks Rob. And as you've done the wings, I'm going to do the tail. Now, one thing that I did notice straight away is when you get out the bag, you've got the actual horizontal stabilizers, actually one piece as well, which again is a nice touch because you're not messing around with the seam all the way around. Also, be careful with this, you've got the static dischargers there, and they will be flimsy, and if you're like me or Rob, you will knock them off. Anyway, tail wise, you've got obviously the rudder is posable along with the horizontal stabilizers, as I say. And again, the actual riveting detail and panel lining is reminiscent to the wings and the actual fuselage themselves. You've got the inside of the intakes which are there, and also you have the rudder again, which is a one piece. So yeah, that's sprue D. Now what we've got is sprue H. Now as you can see, we're basically looking at the undercarriage section. Now first off, you've got your front wheel bay, which is there along with the actual main walls themselves, nicely detailed by the way. Now on here you've got your main legs. They are in 2 bits unfortunately, but never mind, but you'll have the seam to deal with, but yeah, we'll gloss over that. You've got various other bits and pieces, pistons and hydraulic rams and all that kind of business, and you have a solid piece front undercarriage. More on that in a second. But one thing I did notice as well is you got your front wheel protector covering fog not getting an engine crappy thing there. Okay, I don't know what it's called, but you got perforations along there. It's very nicely done. and will actually set off the front undercarriage leg rather well. Now, saying that, also you have some metal parts as well. Now this is the front undercarriage leg only. Now some kits will have these, some won't, and Rob is just showing it on the instructions now, basically what happens and what you'll see in your instructions. Okay, but anyway, nicely done. One is longer than the other, which basically denotes the one that's shorter is basically you've loaded out the aircraft with bombs and missiles and other fiery stuff, and the longer one isn't. And you've also got the actual piston leg, or the oleos, or whatever you want to call them, and that is there. Nicely detailed, and it'll come up rather nice.
Okay, thank you Lenny, me old. So next one we'll look at the clear parts, and while we've got it out, we'll have a look at the nose. So first off, the main canopy section. So as you can see from there, the framing is very prominent. I don't know if I can catch it in the camera. So masking that will be very, very easy to do. Scratches wise, there's very little in the way of scratches. I very much think that the real aircraft will have probably more scratches in it. There's no distortion, and it looks pretty good to me, to be honest with you. Inside you've got some actual detail in there, but not a lot. But anyway, yeah, that is nice. The other clear part is obviously you've got all your lumps and bump sections, and I've got it upside down. Obviously you've got your instrument panel, which is clear, which is nice. You put some decals on the back of that and go through with that. Now obviously you've got all the sections for the missiles, all the seekers on the front, and that's that. So onto the nose. It looks like a nose. It is a nose for an aircraft. It's got no mould seam lines, so you've not got anything to sand down on it. It looks cool, it looks fine, it's wrong shape, but hey ho, on to the next thing. So on to Lenny.
Right, okay, thanks Rob. What we've got now is sprues E and J. On this sprue, what we have is we have the main sort of like undercarriage sort of like base on there. Obviously your main gear legs will go on there, but also you do have the actual sidewalls for it on there. Now the detail on there is again rather nice. It's not sort of like an agricultural type, it's quite sharp and very, very nice, along with the sidewalls on the actual bay itself. Okay, now with that also you have the cockpit. Let's get it around the right way. Now obviously you've got a side-by-side config on this aircraft. You do have your details along there, as in for your switches, circuit breakers and all that kind of business. But also you have, in conjunction with sprue J, you also have the bang seats. Now point to note on that one, you do have moulded on seat harnesses. Yep, okay, I can't really see a bit of problem with it because it is quite nicely done, and with a fine brush and some paint you really will be able to bring that up quite nicely. So yeah, overall the detail is there. I'm happy with that. So over to you, Rob.
Okay, thank you again Lenny. So over to sprue K, which is your burner cans, which you can see here. So obviously duplicate parts, one for either side. So let's just look at one of them. So obviously you get your main wheel sections there for the rubber tyres, and obviously the actual burner cans obviously come in one part pieces there, so nothing really much to glue together. Obviously you've got to clean up the sprue tabs, but to be honest with you, it would be nice to have some resin ones, but I think these would go together quite well when weathered up and looking nice. So yeah, nice sprue K. So if you bear with me a second, I will show you the weapons. So you get 8 main sprues, as you can see there, of which they're all duplicates, so 2 of each. So starting off with the quick one firstly, very quickly, is you get some air-to-air missiles on there, so you'll get 4. Must admit the details on there are pretty nice. As usual, Trumpeter, it's in halves, Same with the fuel tanks on there. Next two sprues is you've got the rockets, so you've got different types, long tube rockets, short ones, and they're all unguided rockets on there. Next one is the air to ground bombs. These are non-laser guided, so you've got two sprues again, and again they look pretty nice. Again, two halves. These two sprues, by the looks of it, because the different coloured plastic, look like they're from obviously a newer kit. It's a newer boxing, so again, air to ground missiles this time, and again the multiple parts, but the details are pretty nice, and the routing, the panel lining is particularly good. Last but not least on these is you've got, I believe these are some smart rockets, some smart bombs or whatever they are, and there we have it. So that is that. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and from me and Lenny, I'll see you again next time.